Hey everyone, welcome back. Betsperts Golf 2023 Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines. Andy, coming off of the Amex, how we doing? Had a lot of bombs in the car last week. You had a little bit of a sweat, I think, early in the week, but did you have anything come the weekend?
No, I mean, I got some guys up near 20, but it was just never close enough. And I think that was a good case for me not to be like, hey, should I bet top 40s on all these guys? No, half of them are going to miss the cut.
Yeah.
Like you really got to, I mean, maybe top 10s, top 20s is what you should be doing when you play bombs. But I guess I'm glad I played bombs. I wish I would have had the one. I mean, it would have ended in disappointment. I wish I had the right bomb who ended up right near the top, but such is life. I had a pretty fun Saturday on one of my matchups. I believe he was 5 shots back, and it went like a -6 +2 kind of swing for the win. Those are like best feeling, worst feeling. Like I've had that stuff happen against me. I think I had a Finau Reed matchup last year where Reed had like a 10-stroke lead after the second round or whatever, but Finau snuck through on the cut line and ended up sniping him at the end. That's the madness of when they get 4 days to do it and somebody has one bad round or one great round. There were a lot of great rounds last week because it was an easy course, and not so much this week. We are finally, is this our first challenge of the year, I suppose?
This is the first big boy course. Very, very different than Birdie Fest that we've had to date for sure. And before we jump into, shout out to Ron. PGA Splits 101 took down our big the $5 DK GPP. Shout out, 25K for Ron. Absolutely love to see it. He'll be back with us soon on the DFS show. We can read all of his DFS content still on the site. Since we continue to hit some winners in different forms, we're going to give you another discount. We're doing $25 off of the annual sub. We did $45 off of the Siwoo 45-1 last week, and now we're going $25 off the annual sub at Betsperts Golf for the week. I don't know. It's a truncated week because that's an important thing here too. As you probably know at this point, golf is Wednesday through Saturday here. So last time we did it until we teed off. We'll probably just go for the week here. Leave this $25.
You know what? Yeah, I'm gonna leave it up till the weekend. And
Yeah.
I'm going to take it down then because somebody has to do it, and I hate bugging the dev team on a weekend. But if you do want a yearly membership, I think it's a good idea. If you love DFS, if you like betting, if you like reading some of the daily content Ron puts out every day during the tournament, he'll have. I should almost pull up one of his articles because there's quite a bit in that. If you do like betting throughout the tournament as well, he'll go through any picks he's making, any bets he's making for that. The round by round matchup betting, and then he'll go through his core plays, each range of DFS, what he likes to use for value plays, mid-range plays, whatnot for that. And then, during round 2 and 3, he'll also talk about a few guys that he's thinking might be a half decent live ad. In fact, he circled Siwoo Kim at 50-1 as a half decent live ad in his round 2 preview a couple weeks ago, which turned out to be pretty prescient, even more prescient by you taking him before the tournament. Easy peasy, nice win by you. But yeah, we'll leave that we'll leave that $25 off promo, through the end of the week here. So boom, look at that. Ron Kloss Boss 5. I mean, he had like the first 4 right in the lineup. It's easy money when you do something like that. So good job to him. Congrats to him. I look forward to reading his DFS article. It should be out later today on Betsperts Golf. And then, like you said, first big boy course, first tournament that we'll see some people where, hey, like par was pretty good for that 3-hole stretch.
Yeah, we are getting the I like the events where I feel like Sony, and I feel like last week the MX where really anyone can win, right? Because these guys are all really good. So when you get in a spot where pins are attainable and birdies are going to be made in bunches, I think your approach last week made a lot of sense. Is like, all right, these guys are all good to varying degrees. They're on tour. They can all compete and get into these spots where they can go super low. Whereas, like, I know we've seen longer shots here, But this is a track that we're coming off of a U.S. Open here a couple years ago, and it is the longest tour or the longest course that's in the tour's normal rotation. It's, I think, just a top tier golfer is gonna win here, in my opinion. Now, again, like the top tier is not necessarily what we see in the past. This is not an elevated event, but we still see 9 of the world's top 21. I think 21 of the top 75. And when you look at the very, very top tier of the board, I think it's still really strong. And we're going to come to the spot where this is now the third time this season that we have to start the show by basically saying, what do we do with Jon Rahm? Because even though anyone could have won last week, really, I think the best player in the world, even though the official world golf rankings won't tell you that that's Jon Rahm, he's won 4 of his last 6 starts. He's just in the top 10 all the time. He's the best golfer in the world right now, and his odds are insane. But are they, right? You're like 450s, 4 to 1. We thought this, Andy, last week at like 650. And here we are again at a course that he loves. He won the Open here and, won here as a debutante years ago. Like, he basically just finishes in the top 10 here no matter what, plays to his strengths. And now we have him at this price. What do we do with Rahm?
Yeah. Not 100% sure. It's a short price. Anyone who lived through the Tiger era and did any sort of sports betting on golf can remember the obscene prices. But like Tiger was winning half might be hyperbole, but not by a lot.
Yeah.
And he was winning an awful lot. And even the weeks he wasn't winning, he was very much competing. It's so tough because, I mean, go run a model, go run numbers, just go pull a bunch of numbers and punch it through and tell me what you come up with for like form over the past X amount of rounds. Pick any amount of rounds. Jon Rahm's going to come up pretty much top 1 of 1 in form. Go look at, just a number of different course fit things that's whatever you want to do. If you want to use total driving, I know a lot of people are on that this week. Is it distance, but with some accuracy is going to matter. Long irons are going to matter. Like, he's just top 5 in everything. So, I mean, his price is probably right. That said, it's still, and there's a lot of overlay built into an outright golf market, but I mean, it's still just implying he wins 20% of the time, which is obscene, but it sounds lower when you say it as a percentage. Like, oh, that's not that often. Like, he wins 1 out of 5 tournaments, so 80% of the time somebody, and it's truly lower than that with the overlay, probably 17, 18. So like 83% of the time somebody else wins. You just have to pick one of the 150 other guys. And I don't think I'm going down the board as far this week with a tougher track. There's, some guys in the 20s to maybe like 50 or 60, but, like taking 100 to 1 like I did last week doesn't feel like it's going to be the move this week for me, especially with, I don't trust some of those guys to go score low here. It's not it's not an easy course. There's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of like scrambling, saving par. And also it's going to play longer because anyone who hasn't checked the weather and looked at what's going on in this neck of the woods, it's rained a ton.
Yeah.
Like they've gotten like 5 inches of rain over a period of time here. And so it's going to play, it's already a long course. It's going to play soft in the fairways. It's going to play deeper in the rough. I doubt they'll just mow twice a day. That rough's probably going to be a little longer than we'd like. So it's going to play pretty tough here. And I don't know. I guess your best bet is Rahm gets frustrated if you want somebody else.
Yeah, that is probably the best bet. So, yeah. And then also too, like it's La Jolla, it's San Diego. So it's definitely, as San Diego is dubbed for like the best weather in the country. It's still nice, but it is still cooler in January. You do have, which you will hear numerous times on the broadcast, the marine layer rolling in, which, those things in combination can depress distance, and distance is going to matter here. And I think you make a good point. We're also it looks like going to have some wind along with some of this rain, which could get a little dicey. Now, again, even though it's Tuesday morning, 48 hours from maybe when that's supposed to be. I'm not going to get into specific weatherman details. Just watch the weather. That doesn't help you in terms of, pre-tournament outright betting, but there's going to be weather waiting on some of those. I think the tee time still as well. Notable here, we are Wednesday through Saturday, and we are split golf on the first 2 rounds. We have the North course involved as well. Like the South course is the one that we're talking about. That is the 2021 U.S. Open. It is the long track that we're talking about. They are all going to play 1 round on the North. North a little bit more traditional tree lines. You got to score on the North. If you do not take advantage of your round on the North and go relatively low in relation to the field, you are definitely in trouble. So you have to take some scoring opportunities there. I think it adds actually a unique live betting opportunity this week as well, because if someone you're eyeballing maybe gets off to a slow start in his first round on the South course and then still has the North round to go, maybe you're getting him at a longer number than you were pre-tournament per se. So there are definitely some opportunities there. If I'm sure the DFS show will go into showdown about making sure that you're stacking North course guys in showdown to take advantage of that too. I'm interested to see maybe off markets too in terms of matchups, Andy, if they are just grouping you by your playing partners, because I think you may be able to find some in round matchups that maybe are North or South as well, if you kind of dig in a little bit. So yeah, I think
that's where I miss Five Dimes. Just a quick little story. They used to hang so many tournament matchups, and they'd go with everybody else's tournament matchups. They just copy that, but they were bound and determined to, if they offered a tournament matchup between Jon Rahm and I don't know, just Scott Harrington, that's a hilarious one. They were going to offer a round 1 matchup no matter what. It always had to have a round 1 matchup with it. So oftentimes those tournaments would offer full tournament matchups between 2 golfers that were playing different courses on Friday or Thursday rather. And then you'd get a round 1 matchup that made no sense because one of these courses plays 2 strokes easier, and used to, or they had AM PM waves, way different waves. You'd be able to take advantage of that. Those days are gone. I miss that, but I think there are live betting opportunities, and it's kind of an opportunity for you to flex your knowledge on certain golfers if you think you really understand how a golfer plays under certain conditions. Because let's say they play the South, tougher course, on Thursday, they whole hum day. Like they're going to be sitting, they're going to be fighting for that cut on Friday. Thursday. Everything's off a day, and that's screwing with me. So day 2, they're going to be fighting the cut line. Like if it's someone you trust to play, that they play better when they play aggressively. Like conservative play does not behoove them. Like it's definitely somebody, maybe not even outrights, but somebody to look at a live top 20 matchups. So there are guys where it's like, if they have to go for it, they're just a better golfer. And sometimes they're just not playing nearly as aggressive as they should. There's guys that maybe just, hey, I think this guy is absolutely going to poop the bed because he's going to have to play a little YOLO ball. You can bet against him. So there's some definite opportunities looking at the second round, especially for the guys who play the tougher course first and have that opportunity on Thursday.
Yep. Good call out there for sure. So very different than what we've seen of late. And I do think is the first big boy course. It's long. You have to, obviously you want fairways, but you're going to be playing out of the rough. The greens are small, so you have to scramble. You have to have some ability to, handle that around the green here. And you're going to be left with a ton of long irons, a lot of approach shots coming from 175. I believe it's the highest amount of approach shots from over 200, over 250. So like you need guys that are, pretty dynamic with their long irons. And like you said, par is going to be really good on some of these holes. And, it is definitely gives you kind of a different feel for than, what we've been looking for and searching for in the 3 events prior to this. So Rahm is the question. I pulled an Andy with this. I can't sit here and not have any Rahm. Rory's also starting.
I was going to say, do the Rory double.
Yeah, I Rahm Rory double because Rory is shorter than Rahm in the Middle East. So again, just a little sprinkle there. Got a little top dog, money on Rahm and Rory like 21. Hey, we'll take it.
Are you worried he's rattled now after Patrick Reed launched a tee at his face. And yeah, Calhoun coming through with the stats. 9 of the last 12 winners started north-south, which I saw that this morning. I had to wrap my head around that a little. I think there is something to, I hate momentum in sports. Like, oh no, man, if they punt, they're losing all the momentum here. Or, they double play to end the inning. That's a momentum killer. Momentum isn't real. It's unprovable, honestly. But in golf, mental state is for sure a thing. And if somebody's in a good mental state, they just play better golf. It's like bowling or anyone who's actually golfed. You know how it goes. It can sometimes just snowball against you. And I think there is something to just going out there and kicking the shit out of the North Course that can just give you a little mental boost to go play well for the next 3 days on the tougher course.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the actual factor, but looking at your scorecard going into the second day, realizing hey, I'm in the top 10, even though a bunch of other guys who are very good at golf didn't play the easy course like I did. Maybe it does just get you that head start you need mentally to get going. So little tidbit, if you're thinking about adding some guys, tee times are out, so we know who's starting where.
Yeah, and I believe that was 9 of 10. And I think maybe the last 2 have not done that trend. But I do think there is something to it, and I think you kind of laid that out pretty well. This is, again, another track where I do think we've seen historically, outside of Rahm, who won here in his debut, and I think maybe Scott Stallings a handful of years ago as well. I think we have 16 of the past 18 have a top 10 prior to their win. So you kind of want to see this one a little bit first. And that's kind of why I'm another reason at the very top of the board where, I think there are, I like the Sony because I feel like there are so many different iterations that could fit that course. I don't think there are a ton of different archetypes that are going to fit here. I think you've seen some guys here that can be shorter off the tee that can, be really good with their long irons and just scramble and putt really well. But man, you're going to have to beat some pretty elite long iron players that all happen to be at the pretty, tippity top of the board here. So, we address the Rahm situation again. 450 on DraftKings, 450 in most spots. Chris is out to 465. If you have that's your best number there. Then we get into Xander. We get the San Diego narrative. Too much pressure. Xander can never win here. Second, a couple years ago, playing okay. I think played better than I think we all expected last week with all the back injury issues. Finau loves this course, sets up very, very well here. Justin Thomas hits his long irons very well and has, sneaky length. He's much longer than I think the average person thinks he is. Will Zalatoris is about as good from 175 to 200 out as anyone in the world. And we know what happened here last year where he played pretty good golf. Hard to not think he kind of yacked it away with Luke List there. Sungjae Im is a tremendous long iron player. Colin Morikawa is just another elite iron player, California kid. That's kind of the top of the board for the most part, depending on where you shop. That is basically up to 20-1. And where are you going to the top of the board if you are?
How much do you hold? Let's say both things. Zalatoris last year, and then Morikawa, what he did early in the year, just with he was minus 750 live, guys. If that's not a choke, I don't know. And
that's a joke.
Getting run down by somebody it is harder. You see it all the time to play with someone on your tail, but both of those guys, I'll put Rahm in his own bucket, but Morikawa is playing as well as Xander, Finau, JT, if not better. And Zalatoris, like we said, with the course history here and just how well he hits his irons, especially from a distance, just what a good ball striker in general that guy is. If I had to bet, it would probably, near the top of the board, probably one of those guys if I could get somewhere near 20, compared to Tony at 12. And I knew I love Tony, or Xander at 10. Boy, the Xander worries went away in a hurry, didn't they?
They did. Yeah.
That was quickly assuaged.
But it made sense though, right? So he him teeing it up there, knowing that he was going to be here as well. You had to feel pretty good about, he was comfortable enough to know that he's going to go back to back. And he was also assured of 3 rounds last week as well. So it wasn't even hey, let me get out knock the dust off. If it doesn't happen, it's 2 rounds and I'm out. Like he was in for 3 last week, no matter what. So it's good to see classic Xander. Late charge on Sunday. We'll look at the final leaderboard in years to come and be like, oh, Xander almost won that one. It's like, not really.
Yeah, it's like Rory at majors. Like Rory got 3rd. Yeah, he shot a 62 on Sunday.
Yeah, it was Rory at the Masters. So I'm with you. Like I love Finau, 12 short. It's a 14 on 365. That's better. The Morikawa bugaboo is going to come back until we see a little bit more consistently is the around the green stuff. Just in terms of some of these other guys, that's kind of where he falls short. Theoretically, if the irons are dialed in, you don't have to, mess with the around the green stuff. It just doesn't really apply here. Like the greens are small. You're going to have a lot of stuff from the rough. Like you're going to miss greens. You're not going to be able to hold everything. So he's going to have to do that. And he just hasn't done it consistently well in comparison to some of the other guys. So,
and like you said, it matters here. Like it is going to be a spot where you're going to have to be good. I don't want to say just scrambling, but around the green in general, because the greens are small, and even the best iron players in the world aren't going to hit tiny greens on every single hole, and you're going to have to do some work with you're going to have to, honestly, truthfully, the way this course plays, it's one of those the cliche. You got to use every club in the bag here. It's kind of a thing.
It is kind of a thing here. Yeah, and then short term too, Morikawa has not been great on the par 5s. You got to take advantage of the par 5s here because again, you're not going to have these par 4s are long. Getting away with a 4 is going to be a good shot and a good score. So you got to take advantage of the 5s. And again, short term form, Morikawa, I trust in the long term is going to be fine. Short term, he hasn't been there, and we have to, especially at the top of the board. We always talk about having to find ways to, cross guys off. It's not very difficult to make a bull case for the elite golfers of the world. So recent struggles on the par 5s and the around the game stuff is kind of why I would cross Morikawa off. If you're talking about like a mid-20s, then maybe I can get in there just because I think he's, closer to Tony than he should be to, Taylor Montgomery, for instance. But I'm with you. Well, Zalatoris is the guy for me. It was going to be Zalatoris the whole time for me here. Just he fits here. He almost got there last year. I think that, we played good enough last week. It was good to see him, get another, again, we're coming off of, off-season back injury. It was good to see him kind of get things going in Hawaii a little bit. And I like kind of what we saw last week. He just hasn't been a guy that dominates birdie fests. Like I think his game fits these spots where the hard courses matter. And that's where his game profiles to fit. And this is where we have this week.
Think about the common denominator between most majors, where it's like, oh man, they're not playing majors at God. I'm trying to think of La Quinta and some of these. It's not going to be the resort course, and you're never going to see the Butterfield Bermuda also being like, they did play the U.S. Open here last year. It's always a tough course. He does well. He thrives at tougher courses. It's the Patty Reed model where it's like, hey, this guy is good and he plays well, but man, when he has to grind it out, he's just always near the top of the leaderboard. 2 Patty Reed references already this morning. He's not even in the field or on the tour technically, but yeah,
he's playing the DP World Tour this week. If you want to get it, I saw Patty Reed at like 50-1. If you want to get some of that.
Yeah, and I'm just looking to it. Anyone who does play the DP wants to get involved in Dubai Desert Classic. I might dig in on that because that starts on a normal day, right? I have an extra day to goof around with that. Since my Wednesday's now freed up, I'm just going to be watching golf. So I'm going to dig. There's a bunch of my guys. I'm a big Lowry guy. I'm a Victor Perez guy. I'm kind of a Thomas Peters guy. Like I might have to dig in and do some outrights on DP World Tour. I'm gonna have to listen to some podcasts, man. I haven't been following most of the European stuff, and I know it's only been a couple weeks, but it is tougher to get into those. And Rory, like you mentioned, at BetCris right now, Rory is plus 255 to win that one. So that's
I think it was 390 on FanDuel. So yeah, that was the Rahm and Rory double.
That's like a 28% implied win hit rate on that price if you don't take it to the Novig number, which is an obscene price. But back to Torrey Pines.
So are you with me at Zalatoris in this range? Is that kind of your preferred guy?
Yeah, I think so. What's the best price you had on him? I have 2 outrights, but I didn't add anything near the top yet. I wanted one of those 2. I was waiting to speak to you between so I could figure out if it was Morikawa or Zal.
Yeah, Zal is domestics 18, Chris 18.5.
I'll poke around. I have some
Yep.
really crappy offshores. Like I have access and money in just keep a little bit of money in all these garbage offshores that you barely use, just for the one time where they have a future that's a little bit off the market. So I'll poke around, but yes, I'm even at if 18.5 is the best I'm getting, I'll take it. I'm gonna bet some Will Zalatoris. Let's put him. Okay, I might even put him on the screen at this point. There he goes. Boom. Will's up in the corner. Now it looks like it says BetSports Gulp, and I don't even mind because all right, that's a team play. We're both on what was the price you got then? I know
18.
you bet earlier than anybody. So
yeah, 18 is still available on Will. So yeah, I won't say it this way this week because I will say I did some research, and when I went to bed Sunday evening, I had a list of golfers that I was considering, which I think is a better way to say it than I went to bed with guys in mind, as I did multiple times last week. So Zal was going to be. We probably would have taken it down to 16, to be honest. I mean, I was just going to fire on Will. There's no way. Again, I know we got there, so it's not like we have to continue to like be pot committed to seeing one get home because we got there last year with Zalatoris. But I still think that there's certain spots where he just profiles, like you said, he's always good in majors, and this is technically a major track, and I like the price there.
They literally played a major here. I mean, I have the hat, goddammit. It's a very beautiful logo. Big golf logo guy checking in. And Torrey, it's almost like the bonsai tree looking thing. I love that.
Yeah, I like that.
It was a solid hat.
Some people don't like this course. They think it's boring. I don't know. I'm a sucker for the cliffs and
it's pretty.
Paragliding.
All these courses in California are nice, and
yeah,
it is a little technical, I guess. And it's a bit of a jarring change for people who have been watching golf because it's like, oh, here's a course you can go pay $200 to play in Hawaii and just walk right on, and here's the exact same thing on a different island. And then last week, here's 2 pretty easy birdie fest courses with one that was supposed to play a little tougher, honestly didn't play all that much tougher at times.
No.
And then you end up at Torrey Pines South, and it's like, shit. I mean, guys are scuffling here. Guys are struggling to make par on long stretches of this course, and it's just a different time of golf. And I think maybe that's something worth discussing is the greens. We're making a bit of a greens change. I know it was overseeded Bermuda last week, but this is just Poa, man. And they're running fast. It's been wet, but I'm sure they obviously can, they have ways to mitigate moisture in the greens, guys. It's not going to be, there's not going to be puddles. It's not going to be the bishop on Caddyshack golfing through puddles and frogs. But so, I mean, maybe they slow down a little, but it's probably still expected to be like 12.5 stimp. And I mean, that's a little bit of a change for some of these people too, who have been playing on a completely different kind of putting surface, honestly.
I don't think the heavy stuff's coming down for quite a while, so let's keep going. All right, we get down to the next group of guys, and I think that this is where it starts to get a little interesting. And I think that, again, you could have a guy deeper than this win this tournament, but man, I don't know. I think that we're coming from the top, and maybe this next group where you jump down to Taylor Montgomery, who we were Ron and I both on last week. I know you've been on of late as well, rolling it really, really well.
I've said he's going to win a tournament this year, and I haven't bet him yet. So I've been dancing with the devil of not having him on a card yet.
Pants got a little tight on Sunday when he was in contention. Rahm missed some putts. The cash out number on Montgomery started to climb. It's actually a good subject. Like, I had people messaging me, what do we do with Montgomery? When Rahm missed the putt, there was some, depending if you have the option, depending if your book allows cash out options, his number basically doubled. I'm not a cash out guy, especially on a pre-tournament bet. Like, if I handicapped the event and landed on a guy and he's in the mix, I know I'm getting I'm getting in bad basically by taking the cash out anyway. There are probably some smart ways to do it. There's probably some math that you and I don't have time to go through on the show to talk about, but in general, I typically don't love to hedge, and I typically don't love to cash out. These are very different discussions, but where do you lie on cash outs?
Hedging is impossible in golf until you get to a playoff. I've laid some light hedges in a playoff when I felt like my guy wasn't going to be the guy. I think I've done it twice. It worked once. It didn't work the other time. So 50-50, which is a great batting average in baseball. I don't know how it's going to work in betting. The cash outs in general, we saw a lot of this with some bigger tickets. If anyone remembers the tickets floating around last weekend where people had 4-way first touchdown scorer bets that were live after Saturday, and a lot of them were going around and people were dogging on the cash out prices. And yeah, the sports book still knows what the general odds are. They have updated market prices. They understand what the EV of that ticket is. And if that ticket's worth $6,000, they ain't going to give you $6,000. They're willing to take the risk on that. They're going to offer you $1,800. And so the cash out, and, depending on how long of a long shot it is, they are going to, they're going to offer you a bad number. So basically almost any cash out price is a bad number, but it's still better than zero, is a lot of people would point out.
Sure.
So, it's the hedging conversation we had one time. I did talk to Jay. This was a Jay Maz conversation we had. Maybe he stole it from somebody, but he kind of, expounded on it pretty nicely. He said, if you bet way too much on something and you're going to be physically ill when you lose that bet and it's winning and you can hedge out of it, maybe you should hedge. If you're going to be physically ill because of the amount of money you could have won, or if it's going to be life-changing money, and even hedging half or something, if you're able to, is also a massive big deal for your life or your quality of life. He's like, maybe you should hedge. And the third possibility is the bet that you're going to make to hedge, is it plus EV? Is it a good bet? Are you looking at this and I know it's impossible. I'm not a psychologist, but if you can wipe out that Montgomery bet and say, I didn't bet him. I'm going to pretend I'm entering this market without any bets, and Jon Rahm's price is X. If I think that's a great bet, you should probably take it. Regardless of what you have. So there's always cases when hedging isn't the worst idea. And again, those first two instances, those are very personal decisions. I nearly never hedge. I did hit a cash out button the other day. I had a Gonzaga preseason outright bet. They're not, here's the thing, they're not winning the tournament, guys. And the fact that they were giving me $1.30 on the dollar for a Gonzaga 20-1, I should just take this money and cycle it through something I can actually make money on with over the next 3 months, because Gonzaga's not winning the tournament. But congratulations, Mark Few, if that happens. I guess I just jinxed it by not getting my money out of that. But
writing down 33 minutes Farmers Insurance for
and that was
content.
That was one of those cases where I've watched the team and I'm like, this is not the team that can, run deep right now. So I'm just the fact that they were offering me anything better than 90 cents on the dollar was hilarious. So I took that one as well. But it is it's a personal decision for sure. And I learned a strong lesson about this early on. I had two of my outrights were in first and second going into the final round. And I had added a couple of Aussies. I think it was Day and somebody else, and they shot up the leaderboard. So I had 4 of the top 5 golfers on the leaderboard. And going into round 4, I went big on the other 2, the 4th and the 6th place, because it was kind of tight. And Jordan fucking Spieth comes out, and he's on 59 watch. So basically I have 6 outrights. 2 of them are heavy bets to make up for the fact that they're lower numbers at that point in the tournament. Spieth is just absolutely Spiething. And I am steaming. I'm I'm going to lose so much money. I'm going to lose all my money. What was I thinking? And maybe this isn't the course that sort of thing happens because it's tougher, but guys can come out of nowhere. I mean, people, if you would have laid a heavy number on Colin on Sunday, you could have laid minus 500. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. It's kind of what I was doing in a Dutching kind of way. So hedging golf, very difficult. Cash out buttons, kind of a mixed bag of take it or leave it. But for the most part, I just ride or die with my guys.
I ride or die too. Yeah. I mean, it's probably not right. There are probably smart ways to do it. Hedging definitely different. You make a good point. And
I don't use the legals that much. Are the cash out buttons? Like, let's say you bet 100 to win, $4,000. Can you just take like $1,000? I know the old 365 used to let you cash out part.
So the only one that lets you cash out part is points bet.
Okay.
They give you a sliding scale. Yep. And you don't want to bet there if you don't have to. They will, points bets. We could do an hour on points.
I think there's something to be said for taking a chunk and riding the rest. Maybe that's not the worst. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you can also make the argument if it's something you're going to be like really sick about losing, you're also probably not bet that much money if you can't handle the loss. Life changing, I agree. Like there are certain points where, like, especially when you're getting into what you reference, some of these parlays and people getting out there, if like, hey, if the 10 grand is going to really, really make a difference in your life, and you can stomach the thought that like you might have walked away from 73,000 or whatever it was, take the 10K, take the 15K or whatever. But
I did kind of misspeak too, as far as you can't hedge golf, because there are books that still will offer yes nos on the favorite in like round 3 and 4. So like I said, Colin was minus 700 in some places. There were books that offered Colin doesn't win the tournament. Basically, I think it was I looked at it because I did look at it. It was plus 485. I almost took a bite, which hurts now, obviously, but I used to be good at that at another offshore that doesn't offer it anymore. They were overly aggressive on favorites going into round 4. And like it was usually off by a chunk, and you could just bet this guy doesn't win the tournament at sometimes just even money. And it's like, yeah, he has a 3-shot lead, but there's a lot of golfers out there. And I used to make a mini killing on that, and every once in a while he'd just win, and such was life. But it seemed like there were some bad numbers on that once in a while. Something to look for if you love live betting or you love waking up on Sundays and betting, and suddenly we're out of football and you need some more action. Obviously not this Sunday. This tournament will finish on Saturday.
Plenty of action to be had on Sunday. So
I don't remember where we're at. Kind of middle of the board. The Montgomery Montgomery's number is a little low for my loving here.
Too short for me as well. I mean,
tough.
Yeah. 11th in his debut here last year, which you kind of like to see. But again, he does hit it a mile. He hits it a mile and he can putt. The approach game is kind of what's still lagging behind. And it makes sense that he would be a guy down the road that would make sense here. Maybe it's this year. Maybe down the road is Wednesday. But yeah, I'm kind of with you where I'm not going to pay 25 to find out when you look around him. Shocking, probably no one that's ever watched the show before. Max Homa was available at 30 early Monday morning. That's kind of evaporated in the market. It's mostly 22s. Chris is 24.
24.
Like we have Montgomery in some instances shorter than Homa, who like actually wins golf tournaments, who likes California golf, who profiles really well for what we need to get done here in terms of being an elite driver of the ball. He's going to check the total driving box that you're looking for. Long irons, can scramble with the best of them. Really, really good around the greens. And I love the Homa number at 30. 22 is a little shorter, but again, like I just feel like I've made the case for months. I feel like he kind of belongs in that tier where he's often not. Like he's usually in the tier below the tier that I think he belongs into in terms of kind of who he is as a golfer. We've seen it for enough where I think it's sticky now. He's competed in big events. He's won big events. Like, we got Riv on the dock in a couple of weeks. Like, we're talking about like length and, some of the things that you need at Riviera, you need here as well. So Homa's my other guy in the top tier. Is there anyone else kind of catching your eye?
I did miss a guy that I'm shopping yet too, and maybe you can help me out here with a better number. What's your best Sungjae number?
I like Sanjay quite a bit.
I have the course fit as like, just like a one of those where the puzzle pieces just like locked together, like one of those crazy videos. It's like, holy shit, like this is a spot where he plays really well, and I love him here. Honestly, the form, especially over a long sample, is top 10 for me. Some of the iron stuff isn't as great, but man, if there was like a 22, I'm certainly, I don't know if I'll get anything that good.
Yeah. Chris is short 18.
Chris is
22
short for sure.
Yeah, 22 on 365. Your best bet. 22 on MGM. Too. Yep. Everything else is 20.
I got a band concert tonight. Can't be driving to Iowa. Gotta watch the kid play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll see. I'll send somebody. I'll find a spot to bet him. But Sungjae. So yeah, near. I'm probably just gonna have two near the top of the board, and I'm calling them long shots, but it's certainly not like last week where we were betting people at 250 to 1. I think a long shot here. Like, what is the longest number you could possibly stomach here? 80? And it's more like, hey, I make this guy 50?
Probably. Yeah. So I'll skip a little bit and we'll come back to some guys above it. I took Keegs at 66. I'm not taking another outright past that. Ed Keegan, just again, long and straight. Long irons, putter is better than it used to be. I don't know what Keegan's course history is here. Let me see.
Did you factor that in at all?
A little bit, yeah. So Keegan does have a fourth and a fifth year, 16th. He's had some good finishes. I do think I buy a little bit into the trend that I mentioned at the top in terms of a previous top 10. I would be a little bit hesitant to fire on a guy that doesn't kind of profile that way. So it's not like a deciding factor, but
hopefully in the next week or two here, we'll actually have a screen share of the new tool while we'll kind of show the model we're using. But I did want to read through some of the stuff. If you read Ron's preview article, which we mention every week and we'll mention again, he picked out a bunch of stats: scrambling around the green, total driving, which is distance and accuracy, approach every week, obviously, putting on POA. Those are 4 that I incorporated. And then further down, he has bogey avoidance, par 5 scoring, long proximity, which I incorporated, Torrey Pines history, which enough people have played enough rounds here that I did lightly incorporate that. And then he goes with birdie or better percentage, and then shot gains, long and difficult courses, strokes gained. I still say shots gained sometimes because my brain's broken, but some of the stats he liked, I went with because we're talking course fit, like great ball strikers who also have a little bit of love around the green, light on the putting because I'm never heavy on the putting, but putting, POA putting, just like Ron said, birdie or betters and par 5 stuff lightly, the driving stuff lightly, and then long irons are super important here. And like Sungjae is, if I mash all that together, it's Rahm and then it's Sungjae for me. So I found a 22 at Bet Online. That's going to be a wager for me. So far, Mr. Zal and Zal's down to 16 at some places. That number has gotten beat. I'm probably just going to go with the 1850. I guess that's the best price I'm seeing on generally the offshores that let me bet. So I'm gonna have those 2, and then probably just 2 longer ones. And I had 2 guys that I thought would be in the 66 range that I'm fine betting at bigger numbers for sure.
So this guy was mentioned last week.
I'm gonna let you guess because this is always fun.
So this is what am I? I'm guessing a guy you thought he was going to be in the 60s and he's shorter.
So they were like 60 and 80. And then at another book, they're flip-flop 60 and 80. So I'm getting 80 on both of these guys. That's what we're doing. Both from North America.
Okay. Pendrith.
Right country, wrong shape.
Adam Hadwin?
Yeah.
Hadwin. Okay.
Not super in love with this one, but also at the same time, like I said,
Hadwin's all over the market price-wise. Woo!
I said, yeah, like if I get a 66, I'll put a half size bet on Adam Hadwin, and then Adam Hadwin at Chris's 80, and I'm kind of forced because I had talked myself into it, and then the other one, and this one is maybe even a smaller bet. Alex Smalley is down to 60-1 at Chris, 62.50. And there's other places in the market that have 100 on him. That's just another one where it's like, well, if you're going to put a number on a guy, I said I would bet at 66, 100. Smalley's just been playing good golf. I think he is another guy too that maybe it's not here. This is a tough course, a toughish field, although it's not the toughest field in the world, guys. Just because it has Jon Rahm doesn't mean the rest of the field is electric. I feel like he's a guy who gets a win this year as well. So Smalley's going to make the card quite a few times, I think.
I like Smalley play. Probably a finishing position bet or maybe a matchup. I'll look into that too.
Yeah, he is actually one where I might just add a top 20 because it's going to hurt when he finishes like solo 11th and
for sure
plays really well and just was never in it to win.
Yeah. FanDuel very willing to take your Adam Hadwin outright action. 95.
I did find a 90 at BetOnline as well. BetOnline is really good numbers on a few of these guys. Like I said, that's where I'm placing Sungjae at 22. I don't think I've found anything better than that. So
no, I don't see anything better
pretty happy to give BetOnline some money.
Yeah. I talked about Jason Day last week. Yeah, I think I talked you off of attacking him. Justin Rose as well, but Jason Day is stunningly short now. Like 18s, there are 25s. Chris is aggressive at 28, but like we're back into like prime Jason Day. People are really ready for this to happen again. Course history is good. California golf is playing better. Gosh, like 18 for Jason Day on the board is just absolutely wild. When we were 80 last week, we were talking about Rose and Day. So, and I like them both here, but I can't get anywhere close to an outright on that number. I think if you like that, I just don't see why you don't go down to Justin Rose, who still is out there at like 60, 75 on Chris. Like, similar profiles, long-term, a little older guys, good long iron players, good course history here. These prices are getting shorter for sure, but thoughts on Jason Day being out there at Caesars 18. Caesars usually pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you certainly can't bet that price. Like, it's probably a matchups play for me. If we'll see what the market does with him in those. Sometimes the correlation between outright and matchup prices isn't always A to B, guys. So I'm going to look for him there. I did use Justin Rose in a daily matchup last week. So yeah, guys, I'm going to have to watch out for because you do have to take some context. Like you can look at it and say, hey, I'm looking at 100 round sample size of this golfer. And then I'm using these stats to make decisions. It doesn't always work because injuries, club changes, equipment changes, coaching changes, things like that. Like Harris English and Matsuyama are really good examples of that. If you use a big sample size on those guys, it's going to say they're not very good at golf because Harris English, tried to play through a hip injury, probably came back a little too early. Matsuyama played through a bunch of injuries late in the season. So their long-term numbers are going to look a little goofy, and you got to put some context to that. And the same thing goes to these guys that make major changes with equipment, coaching, caddies, or just lifestyle. Sometimes a guy just gets it right by getting married / a divorce, whatever. Ricky still hasn't figured it out, but he'll get there someday. He'll
play
just
better.
He'll just sign the paperwork one of these days and just have half my golf clubs, and suddenly I can maybe win again. But yeah. So I mean, some context to some of that. I think Day and Rose both fall into that category with some things they're doing differently, and it showed last week. That said, there's no way in hell I'm betting Jason Day at under 30 in this. You give me a 50, I'd certainly look at him. I mean, it's a tough course, and JT, Finau, Schauffele, Morikawa, Zal, Sungjae Ram, it's still pretty top heavy for a guy who hasn't shown me an extended period of doing it. So
I agree. Yeah, like you said, it's not a great field, not a super deep field, but again, we got Rahm, Xander, JT. I mean, that's a great three of the best players in the world. And then the other guys that are right there, as you mentioned too, with just Zalatoris and Im and Colin. I still think this is where we're getting to this week. So I think the drop off is kind of in that next tier once we get past it. I talked about Keegan again. Decent course history here, but also just he's playing better golf overall, and it kind of fits what I want to do here. The rest of the guys, there's some guys that I think are really interesting and that fit some of the things that we want this week. Some guys that can hit it long irons are really good. Maybe I don't think that they have it for 4 rounds to hold off what seems to be peak Rahm, because that's really what we're talking about in terms of outrights, right? Like you have to go out and beat Jon Rahm for 4 rounds, and a lot of really good golfers are struggling to do that right now. So the rest of these guys, for me, I think are, whether you're looking to apply this to DFS, depending on their ownership. Guys, we'll get to that later today, but maybe finishing position bets, matchups. Mentioned Pendrith. Pendrith can hit it a mile. I think just profile, I want to continue to buy in. I think he's going to be really good. Kurt Kitsuyama's, I think, kind of a fit here. He's been playing better golf and hits it a mile, hits his long irons really well. Isn't a complete abomination around the green, which I think matters here too. He's not going to find a ton of fairways. So he's going to be, hitting out of the rough, but hitting out of the rough from closer because he can hit it really, really far. And again, like 200 yards out, 175 to 200 bucket. He's been really, really good. I like him quite a bit. And there's another guy. I wanted to like Mullinex, but I looked into some of the around the game stuff on Mullinex. It wasn't great. So kind of, cross him off. I did have Smalley on the list. I'm going to go back to Ben Griffin, who was, last week put it together a little bit on the weekend and got in the mix. Ben Griffin is, again, going to be a pretty long, 3-1 for a top 40. Could find his way on my card here. So those are some of the other names that I like a little bit further down the board that would maybe be bomb outrights in a typical week. I'm not playing it that way this week. I'll save some of these funds for, I like doing these top 40 parlays. Again, we joke about it. I know that they are fishy.
There's ways to make them work, guys.
There's ways to make them work this week with some of these top guys where you can get to basically, plus 110s by firing off a couple of these guys together and just kind of, round robining those guys to get you there. And that's going to be on the card this week for sure.
Same thing. And definitely it'll have to be the right golf tournament aligned with the right tennis tournament. But there's a decent chance, because honestly, there's some books that let you parlay anything. I might have a Ben Griffin, Ben Shelton, PGA ATP Young Guns parlay at some point. That's my dream. I love parlaying. I did remember when I parlayed Tony with Georgia, and then Tony pulled out. So I'm sitting on a small Georgia bet at I had a hell of a number, and obviously Georgia trounced, so I was happy to get that. But quick recap before we head out, and I will mention quick. The DFS show will be at 3 p.m. Central, 4 Eastern today, a little later, as they're doing utility work where Byron lives, Model Maniac. He texted, he's like, my power's going to be out for 5 hours, I guess. So we kind of erred in the side of caution, pushed it back, make sure he has power. He will need power to stream. So 4 Eastern for that. We'll talk some DFS this afternoon. But for me, Zal, 1850, I got Sungjae 22, Smalley 90, Hadwin, I think it was Smalley 100, Hadwin 90 was the two best prices I got on the longer shots. Smaller bets on those two. And then is it Zal, Keegan, and Daddy Homa? Is that it for the week then?
That's all I got for the week. And I think it's all I'm going to do for the outrights. Sungjae is the one. Because, I'm not going to take 3-4 shots down the board. I might have some money left to take another shot near the top. It would probably be Sungjae. Because I just don't want to get all the way up to Rahm or I mean, not even Rahm, but for Finau would probably be the next guy. And that's just a tough jump, basically 10 points. So I'd be there with him. He'll definitely be on the card. So, and also shout out to Byron, nominated for Golf Writer of the Year and the FSWA awards. Shout out to him. Also friend of the show, Pat Mayo, nominated as well. So good to see those guys get recognized for all the great hard work that they do and good stuff. So shout out to Byron. And he'll be checking in with Andy later today to do the DFS show. So hang around, subscribe if you haven't already done so in the BetSports channel, and you'll get notifications for that.
Yeah, like Ryan said, subscribe to the channel if you want to catch a show every week. hit the thumbs up. That helps the Google to like us, or the YouTube. They're all owned by the same company, guys. We'll do a conspiracy theory show later on. We'll talk about how 5 corporations own everything. Still running the $25 off the full year sub, taking it from 200 to 175 for you, because we're celebrating the Kloss Boss 5, taking it down. We win, you win. Congrats. Drew Beaven, thank you for watching. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. Enjoy the golf. It starts early. Get after it. You get to watch 3 weekdays. That's 3 work days. You get to screw off in the afternoon and watch golf on now. So kind of a nice little bonus for you there. And yeah, we'll catch you next week.